What is life, the universe, and everything? Kikank. It's not 42, y'all. It's kikank. Guys, you know what? Some things just have to happen over and over and over again. This may be the Groundhog Day of Pencil to Pencil. I feel like you've been here before. What does he say, Mike? That's a voice I haven't heard since last Wednesday, 8 p.m. EST. Guys, welcome back. It's P2P time. It's Pinch Me, I Must Be Dreaming time. It's Pencil to Pencil time. Guys, welcome back to the live cast. I am agog that I get to sit in front of you, in front of your splendor, and introduce the show once again. I'm your first host. My name is JAMAR Nicholas, Philadelphia's favorite son. You may have heard that. It's not Rocky Balboa, it's JAMAR Nicholas. And I wear many hats besides this one. I am the second vice president of the National Cartoonist Society and the chapter chair for Philadelphia. Go Birds. No, I'm sorry. Go Phils. It's almost baseball season. Go Fightins. I also have a graphic novel series at Scholastic Graphics. Leon and the Big Problem will be out November 2026 this year. I'm very excited. Guys, I would be remiss. I'd be in remission if I did not introduce my co-host. I just made a whole new word up. A horse.
Your bratwurst.
Your brats. Co-host, cohort, and co-conspirator. He, you know what? He's very humble. He won't tell you. He always says that his comic strip is your 23rd favorite webcomic. I believe it's a lot higher than that. You may see him as you're driving down the internet sideway. Sideworst. Internet superhighway. Walking with a melodic tinkle at his back. You know him in these cold streets as, by God, it's Stone Cold Steve Conley. What's up, Steve Conley?
Gentlemen, it is so good to see you.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Steve Conley. I create your 21st favorite webcomic. Oh, look at that.
There you go.
I'm all full of myself.
Yeah.
It's called The Middle Age. You can read it at middleagecomic.com. It's on the Webtoons, the Tapas, the Go Comics. It's on a lot of other places. You can check out those first 336 episodes. It's a lot, but it goes quick. It goes quick. You're gonna love it. It's a page turner. I also make TTRPG stuff like the Nibblemancy, the Intoximancy, and the latest Wildest Shape and Stabber Cadabra, which are on my art table right now. And I'm also a member of the card-carrying member of the National Cartoonist Society in the Central Florida chapter. Go Invertebrates! I would be remiss if I didn't introduce a Tower of Power, the Man Hour, Too Sweet to Be Sour, Dark Hawk's daddy, the cartoonist of 2 daily comic strips. 2 daily.
Two
every day. Yeah, every time you sleep, he does 2 comic strips. Mr. Mike Manley.
Hey, hello, everyone. When you're sleeping, I'm awake.
I love it. When you sleep, I'm awake.
That's right. When you're sleeping, I'm awake. I'm like Santa Claus, right?
I love it.
Santa Claus who draws 2 comic strips. So when you're asleep, I have to be awake, making the toys.
I love it, Mike. Mike, what's your week been looking like?
Let's see. Well, I finished The Phantom and got that in, and now I'm working on the next week of The Judge. So I've got to finish the dailies and the Sunday by Friday. So I'll be running a little bit of midnight oil tonight, and then all day tomorrow, and then probably up till about, hopefully by 3 on Friday, I'll be finished.
What happened to that group, Midnight Oil? Down where the river flows. What happened to those cats?
I don't know. They were like big there in like 84 or something like that.
What do we do when the wheels are burning? How does that go?
Beds are burning. Beds are burning.
What do we do when the furs flying? I forget.
The bras are burning.
What do we do when the bras are burning?
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of groups from Australia coming in right around that time.
Like safety dance wasn't those cats. They were for who's the Vegemite sandwich dude?
Men at Work.
Men at Work.
Oh.
Yeah, I love it. That's
then
there was
the church, and I'm not sure if Echo and the Bunnymen were from.
Echo and the Bunnymen.
But there was a bunch of people right around then who came in from Australia.
That was a movement. It was a moment. I love it.
Yeah.
Mike, because you are kind of the resident sage of Pencil to Pencil in your own way. We all have our wheelhouses here. Was there ever a kind of like an Australian invasion of cartoonists in the business at any time? Like, I feel like Australia's not really known for its cartooning, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just not.
Eddie Campbell?
Eddie Campbell's Australian. I didn't even know.
I thought he was.
I think the guy that I think of the most is Colin Wilson, who used to do Rogue Trooper and then eventually did Lieutenant Blueberry. He's Australian, I believe. And there's a lot of fans down there. But I think probably the difference might be that they don't have they print comics or reprint comics, but they don't have a, like a Fleetway or a Titan or whatever that did,
like a distro, right?
Right. So I think that's the biggest. Maybe that's the big thing. I'm sure somebody will come on and say, "Oh, remember so and so" or whatever.
Well, this is funny. Our good buddy Joseph from YouTube says he didn't approve of my my Australian dance sounds. He said, "I thought that was Katharine Hepburn." That's like in the Aviator, where Kate Blanchett was like, "This is my favorite line. Well, we're a perfect pair. I sweat a lot in your." I forget what she says. It's probably not worth saying on air.
That was that famous mid-Atlantic accent that everybody was doing.
Yes. You old poo.
There was a school for that. Someone who started that. So like Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn, a lot of your old early movie stars and radio announcers and people, they learned There was a vocal coach. I just saw something on, I think it was on Facebook about this a couple of weeks back, where they were talking about this person who did that and taught everybody to speak in that sort of kind of clipped, crisp.
Yeah, it did get a name not too long ago. You're right.
Yeah, it was called the Mid-Atlantic accent.
Which is
when you talk to people back in the old days, they always talk like that. They always had the very specific,
that was like the was it the Fantastic Miss Maisel or whatever that show was called? I'm just remixing stuff to make it funny. Like everybody talk like this, Yeah. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all the ships at sea. The whole type of thing. I remember the line, "We're a perfect pair. You're hard of hearing, and I sweat a lot. What a perfect pair." I remember. Guys, welcome to the program. If you no, man. Which is very close to my Paul Lynde. It's kind of like in the same wheelhouse. Guys, welcome back to the show. I want to go on record by saying, and I hope some of you guys agree with me, have you enjoyed March, you guys, here on the Pencil to Pencil channel? Because we've given you a whole ass month of draw and jaw. Because we've been behind the scenes making biscuits for you, and one of the things was like, should we do something else? Like, no, let's just keep going. Everybody seems to really enjoy this. I'd love in the live chat, guys, tell us what you thought of Draw and Jaw month. If you enjoyed this, or you're like, bro, change the channel already. But this is like, this is up. Yep, Trista said banger after banger, all net. I love it. And, we've got to watch each other draw stuff. We love the biscuits. And I think we're just going to close out this month with another hot 16 of us drawing. D-Fish, what up, D-Fish? D-Fish says, Draw and Jaw month has been fantastic. I love it. See, and one of the things that really drew me to this, no pun intended, is the fact that we rarely draw on stream. We rarely draw on stream. I rarely draw on stream, but Mike's been doing a lot of heavy lifting. Shout out to Steve Conley, who had a whole episode to himself working on his middle age pages. And you get to see another part of us. I think, and this is always been my opinion, that a cartoonist doesn't have a personality besides what he puts on a paper. And I think I'm proof positive that you could be a whole ass thing and still be a dope cartoonist, right? So it's good that you get to see, besides us, just kind of like talking the talk, you see us walking the walk. George Gant, what up, George Gant? George Gant says, these have inspired me to attempt live drawing myself. Read Beware of Toddler in your newspaper today. Thank you. Our good friend Bra says, on Pencil to Pencil, yes, very much so. March in general, in terms, not really. What? So Steve Conley, what are we handling tonight?
Well, we can't stop Mike because he's already started.
No, can't stop.
Won't stop.
Nice.
Where are we here? Let's get him on the big screen.
Wow, he's already knuckles deep. Look at that.
That was blank just seconds ago.
It was.
But we're gonna. I think we were all gonna break out our drawing supplies, or digital or otherwise, and but Mike, he's the. Look at that.
Mike, what are you chefing up over there?
I think I'm gonna draw Dark Knight fighting sort of an Azrael version of Dark Knight.
Okay.
Just something.
Yeah.
Something that the fans would like.
Nice. I like it. And I think at some point, Stone Cold's going to get on the boards, and I'm going to do my best to try to put something on the screen as well. And Mike did like the whole show last week, which was great. And then Steve did the whole show the week before. And then the first one was kind of like a medley, kind of like carrots, peas, and broccoli on your plate. No, lima beans. I'm sorry. Shout out to Big Lima. Big Lima. How come you don't see lima beans like that anymore? Lima beans used to be everywhere in the 80s.
Back in the day, right?
Yeah. I think the marketing's bad. Our good buddy Tio Michael, what up, Uncle Mike? Says, I love the witty repartee between the three of you. Thank you, Uncle Mike. But really, the behind-the-scenes look and when you explain the process and thought processes, it's been very inspiring. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. That's why we do this. This is us giving back, and I'm glad you can take something away from it and bring it back to your hive. Especially, go tell them tales of my really bad Katharine Hepburn impression.
And do click the like and the hearts and the thumbs ups and the various upvotings and assorted
the updates.
Yeah.
I was looking for a little animation thing to put on here. I wonder if that's just like annoying to people. I wonder, this is a good question because I'm such a YouTube guy, right? Like a lot of you guys know that I don't even like rock with like TV anymore. I'm straight YouTube from dawn to dusk. I'm on YouTube, right? And I've gotten, maybe in the last couple of years, I think YouTube can be a very passive, I guess, tool. But I was talking to somebody a while ago. I was like, yo, my favorite channel is, so-and-so and this guy with like a bunch of numbers and letters in his name. And my buddy was like, who? I was like, no, there's an actual person that does these videos. But I think a lot of times people don't even learn the names of the people who do the things that they're doing.
Huh.
Right? You know what I mean? It's like, Stardust 566 is the name of the dude who does this channel.
Right.
But you don't care, right? Let alone put a thumb up after you've watched like hours and hours of Stardust 5666's content. So, I've changed my algorithm over the past couple of years that if I watch something all the way to the end, I like it. Like I put a thumb in there. Pause. I put a thumb up in there because it really does mean something. I don't know, Steve, do you have any type of YouTube algorithm things that you do? Do you like people's things?
Oh yeah, and subscribe to certain ones. I'll also do things like don't show me this again. Like if you don't get to the point within the first 2-3 minutes, if I feel like you're padding, I'm gonna, it's different if it's a live stream. Usually I like I don't mind a little bit of warm up at the beginning. Let people, they're getting their notifications, they'll come in. I feel like that's part of a good structure that we have. We give people time to show up before the guests are here, or before we really get into the meat of it. Yeah, I subscribe to certain channels. But I also have a thing where I'll say often take that algorithm, because I will watch something completely atypical of what I would normally watch, where it's, I don't know. I think I was watching a specific kind of cultural dancing that was just unlike anything I'd watched previously. And I love throwing the algorithm a curveball like that, because I get exposed to unusual things. That's how I kind of fell into watching sumo wrestling. I'm like, I'm into that now. It's a weird, all thanks to some weird algorithm.
I love it. Yeah. Oh, give a shout out to your sumo page, Steve.
What's that?
Give a shout out to your sumo page that you watch all the time.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I watch it over on Twitch. There's a couple on YouTube that are pretty good. There's a Chris Sumo. He does a pretty good regular update. He is in the weeds a bit, so I wouldn't say it's beginner friendly. It takes some time to get caught up. But Midnight Sumo is a channel over on Twitch, and they will live stream the entire tournament, all 15 days of it. And there's one every 2 months. One just wrapped up, and he's really good about bringing people up to speed. Good color commentary. Good, you don't know the rules. Don't worry, he will, face front true believer. He'll fill in all those little caption boxes for us and make sense of it. Well,
here's a good question now that I'm thinking about it, Steve, because Steve's also our resident smart tech guy, stuff. Do you think that it is worth the Pencil to Pencil Boys having a Twitch stream? Like, well, we could point one of our spokes at Twitch, or do we need to kind of be like kind of Twitch, like set up for Twitch rather than just point a camera over there? Because there's like a whole different algorithm.
It's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, I don't ever get too caught up on the algorithms themselves because they're going to change, right?
Yeah.
By the time you've mastered it, it's going to change. I help a nonprofit website, and they recently brought in what's called an AEO.
What's that?
And it is like, SEO for search engine optimization. Now they've got answer engine optimization, which is another phrase for AIO, of trying to figure out how to optimize your website for the search engines, the new AI search engines. So it just, it's not the work I'm doing. It feels like, I don't know. I'm not going to downplay how people make their living, but I feel like anyone pretending to be an expert in that at this point seems pretty ballsy. Anyway, so I don't know. By the time you figure a platform out, it may have changed. So I don't think we need to be on Twitch. I think the best bet for us will be I think we talked about offering edited versions, clipped versions of bits of the show.
And I put a couple on. I don't know if you noticed that. I put a couple of little Johns on.
How did they do?
You know what? Mike talking about him not pulling all-nighters. I put that up. And it got a lot of views. It had like a couple thousand views.
That's great.
Yeah. That's just something I need to kind of
like hang it up, old man. You can't pull on letters. You're not worth your salt anymore.
That's right. You're not worth the paper you're printed on. You see what I did there?
And I don't blame the algorithms for penalizing our live streams, because generally the signal to noise ratio is not very. It can't be great just because of the length.
Well, wait a minute. Didn't you tell me, and this is the jaw part of Draw a Jaw, right? So didn't you tell me that the tubes of you don't like kind of like what do you call it, like the after viewing of a live stream, like they don't get as much stuff as if you uploaded a video?
Yeah, is that
true?
Yeah, I mean, well, no. I think if you upload it, an edited version of it, it'll get more views than the live stream.
Right. What do you know why that is?
Yeah, because live content tends to be very of the moment, and those moments pass, and so it tends not to have legs or be evergreen in any way. So they just presume that if you're out live talking and you're talking about, if we spend 20 minutes talking about the passing of, let's say Miss Tessmacher, that's not something that's necessarily relevant in 6 months. So in terms of its shelf life, live content probably doesn't have it as much as something that is prepared. And I think even editing this down, I think one game writer, TTRPG in the TTRPG space, named Mike Shea, he does a live stream on Twitch, and then he takes that and edits it down for YouTube, and the YouTube does great. And I think that might be a formula, but it takes a while to do that. I think he dedicates many hours.
Is he the guy who does the maps?
No, that one is the one you're probably thinking of is, oh boy, forgive me.
I'm named Mike Shea that I went to the academy with me, and he does. I think he did map. He does fantasy,
like cartography type stuff.
Yeah.
No, it's a different guy. This guy does more writing. He wrote the book The Lazy Dungeon Master. And
Mike, is that Mike Merles? Is that who that is?
No, Mike Merles is another guy.
Mike Shea.
Yeah, Mike Shea is also Sly Flourish.
Yeah, I have a couple of his books. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I had kind of been talking lately about kind of like the why of what we do. as far as like social media and like doing live streams and all that other kind of stuff, because we do a lot of it. Like Steve has his own Twitch channel that I've been known to haunt a little bit, and you know, like we all have this different kind of like way of kind of approaching this stuff, and I just find it very interesting. I've said it in a million different ways that I feel like the modern cartoonist kind of has to be visible in a whole different way than you didn't need to be before. And not even because it didn't exist. It's more kind of like, you know, when you meet people in the street, they're like, yo, what's your Insta? It's almost like your phone number these days. Like, yo, what's your Insta?
It's also, as everyone talks about, you know, social media is not as relevant as it was in terms of promotion. Like, how do you get your name out there? How do you get your name out there? And video and YouTube and TikTok and Twitch are great for that. But it requires you to be comfortable in front of a camera and hopefully have a presentation style or presentation style that people can warm to. And you don't have to have you don't have to be easy on the eyes. VTubers do quite well, where they just put up an icon or avatar of themselves and just talk. That sumo channel, I don't know what that host. I've spent countless hours watching his channel and listening to him talk. I've never seen what he looks like.
You just hear his dreamy voice,
and just the avatar of a cat, and that is synced to his own vocalizations. It kind of animates a little bit.
Yeah, I never really understood that, but that's a thing too.
Well, some people just don't want to be on camera, you know. Do you think a cartoonist? Do you think if a cartoonist doesn't want to be on camera, that is a negative for their career currently?
Yes, I think so. You know, people may disagree, but I kind of feel like, you know, you don't have to be like the host of a mega popular live streaming channel like Pencil to Pencil, right? You know, you don't have to like go all out, but I think you got to do something. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe things have changed again, and I'm just trying to like keep up.
The thing is, you don't know when anything is changing. They're changing everything every day because they're using AI and they're measuring all these metrics. So every single day, they are changing something. You don't know. And then eventually there's an article, somebody said something such like what, now they're limiting the amount of hashtags you can use. Everybody used to use hashtags. And if you didn't use hashtags, they're like, well, you got to use the hashtags now. Oh, don't use the hashtags. I think the thing is that it's all about video now. Really, that's the main thing. It's just about video. And if you're not doing video, you're at a great disadvantage because it doesn't favor the still image. It did 20 years ago, but it doesn't favor the still image now. It favors the video. The algorithm is made to want people to do the video, right? It doesn't want you to do a still image.
What do you mean by that, Mike?
Well, if you're a photographer, painter, cartoonist, you know, your image comes up, it's just there. People look at it. They're not going to look at it as long as a reel or whatever. That's what they want now. They want these quick video dopamine where it's on long enough. But, you know, around 2000, back when there was the drawingboard.org and, you know, Shane and Alberto and Cheeks and a whole bunch of people were on this great board. People used to like
Shane Glein's board, right?
Yeah. And people used to, there was a lot of people on that board, a lot of people in animation, and Jose Agrita. There was a ton of people on that board. And the thing is people would mix. You would have professionals and amateurs, and people would post stuff and people would save stuff, and people would, There was even a while where they would do critiques. I did critiques. I remember Paul Ravoche did critiques. People would post stuff, and you go over and you give them a critique. The internet was much more intimate in that way, right? Now it's really all about chasing the trends. So Instagram is trying to imitate TikTok. Everybody's trying to imitate TikTok, but even TikTok is with them what they call brain rot or whatever. It's the negative aspect of social media, because it's really destroyed young people's brains. I'm reading that book, The Anxious Generation, which is a great book, and it really discusses all this. But you can see even 4 years ago, my numbers were growing steadily, and then they changed the algorithm. So basically what happens is my views go up and go back down, and they go up and they go back down. And it's always basically like, you might gain 17 people over the course of a month. You might have hundreds of people subscribe, and then the same amount of people unsubscribe, and then you end up like you gain 5 people. They're doing that on purpose, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you to buy. They want you to make videos, and then they want you to buy advertising, and that doesn't pay anymore either. So we're all kind of stuck, because if you don't use social media, nobody knows you exist. And there's no way to really reach people, because, the diamond catalog is gone. There is no way for you as a cartoonist to reach a mass audience if you're not using social media. Yet it's not designed for people who do what we do. If you're Jim Davis and you've got Garfield and you've had millions of fans for 40 years, fine, you already have your audience built in. But if you're a new person, you've got to try to find your community on Reddit, or, it's and nobody knows. It's like everybody's guessing, and then like, well, one person is really successful. Okay, I'll try to do what that person's doing. Not working for me. Why is it not working for me? It worked for this other person, but it's not working for me, because we don't have the metrics. We don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're changing every day.
It's very true.
I mean, I put up stuff. I mean, I'm luckier than many people from the standpoint that I have a ton of stuff, because I've been doing it forever, right? So a young person, I mean, I can just go in the next room and grab a bunch of stuff and take a picture or scan it, right? I got so much stuff.
Sure.
But a young person doesn't have that, right? So you're trying to build up your audience. I'm pulling my audience from 40 years from various sources. But you're trying to start out now doing it. It's not so easy.
We've got a question here from Teal Michael on the YouTubes. What's better, the focus on the talking heads or the work as you're speaking, like Mike is doing? Is one better than the other?
What, the focus on?
On talking heads? Like if you were going to recommend, if I'm interpreting this question correctly, if you were going to promote yourself or have a channel or spend time streaming online, better to be a talking head or to kind of fill the screen with the artwork as you're drawing?
I think you just have to sort of figure out what your audience wants. I don't think there's we're in a time now that there is no one answer for everybody.
That's fair.
Right? What works for Steve Rude and Frank Cho may not work for you, right? What works for Kurtz or somebody else, Shane or whatever, it's like the one thing I do think above all that is still really consistent, people like drawings of sexy women. Women like drawings of sexy women. Guys like drawing of sexy women. And the stuff that I see that still gets the most traffic is drawings of the female figure. Because you can make it, sexy pinup stuff, or you can make it, like Waterhouse or whatever. But the stuff that consistently gets more views is something that has the female figure in it. Because like I said, women like drawings of women. Women artists usually do drawings of women more than anything else. Like all my female students prefer drawing women. They didn't like drawing robots, right? Dudes like drawing girls and robots, but most of the women like drawing women. So I remember talking to our friend Alberto about that, because he did only women, really. And you would see that not only would guys come up to his table and buy his stuff, but a lot of women bought his stuff. So that's the one thing, and then, there's little side to it. There's people who like anime stuff, or people who like, I don't know, like vampires or dark spooky stuff, or people who like furry, or people who sort of combine a little bit of each one of those things. But that's, and I know from just my feed on the internet, if I post Batman, I'll get more likes, because everybody likes Batman. All the comic fans like Batman, right? You could post Superman, and people like Superman, but more people like Batman. There's certain characters that if you draw, you will get more likes. You'll get more likes for Batgirl than Supergirl.
Batgirl. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting.
So I think the main thing is the doing. Is you've got to do it, and then be willing to change based upon what your feedback is.
I like your thought about feedback from your viewers, not necessarily feedback from the algorithm, because the algorithm is going to be fickle. I think a nice Jim Lujan, Lujan? Yeah. Forgive me, please. Wrote, if I can click properly, I can click. Chasing the algorithm reminds me of the coyote chasing the roadrunner. Meep, meep.
Well, I really, because the fact is, we don't know what the criteria of the algorithm is, right?
Right.
We know that it's weighted in certain.
Yeah, and if we know it, then the marketing department that's promoting Sprite knows it, and so we're suddenly competing with like the Coca-Cola company and everybody else. George Gant says nostalgia is a big one too. 90s Nickelodeon characters always get engagement. Yeah, that's a 30-year cycle. You draw what was popular 30 years ago. And Batman's always been popular.
Batman's always popular. The Ninja Turtles are always popular. Spider-Man is always popular. There's certain characters that are always going to be popular because you've had basically, 80 years of people liking those characters.
So if you were, we've had this conversation before. It was interesting because I had this, I was talking with other indie publishers at the recent ShadowCon, which was just outside of Orlando, a week before MegaCon.
That sounds shady.
It was fun. It was a comic book show. The dealers there were just comic book dealers, all long boxes, maybe a few Funko Pops. John Beatty was there, a couple other Floridian stalwarts. And it was a fun little show. But afterwards, talking with some of the other indie creators who were set up there, they're all stuck because Diamond distribution collapsed, and now the new distributors are not necessarily supporting or carrying any of the real indie projects. Like if you don't have a significant bit of market share or a significant line of books, or can find yourselves under the umbrella of one of those companies that have a line of books, like kind of like subletting, you're just out in the cold. And so as indie comic book creators, they feel stuck. And I it's a real hard sell to, I don't know, to even navigate how they're going to get out of that situation. I don't know what I would do in that. I mean, apart from giving away the book and finding advertisers for it, I don't know how you penetrate that world. Tio Michael, have you guys ever thought of taking your show on the road, like at a local con or at a library school shows?
We did do a live thing right in the very beginning, several years ago at Baltimore. We interviewed a couple of Will Rosato and I think somebody.
Oh, right. Yeah. I think we called it pencil shaving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. That was fun. But I also think these days, like, it's really hard for all three of us to be at a thing at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of the magic of the internet. Like, we can all just be in the same room at the same time, but it's hard to do a live thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really do that many cons anymore. I don't plan to do that many cons anymore. I've sort of turned the corner with that. I'm doing a con next month, but I think the pandemic sort of killed that for me in a way. And the economics of it, like doing cons is like really expensive now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that, if they don't comp you your table in your hotel and you have to drive, it's pretty expensive. It's pretty expensive. And I also think that there's too many cons. So that's the other thing. Because there's so many cons, then people kind of get burnt out,
Well, this isn't the kind of episode where we're kind of coaching people. Like, this is Mike's experience, right? So it's not necessarily that and I'm not speaking for you, Mike, but it's like you're not necessarily telling people what to do or not do, but this is how you're doing it.
Well, yeah, this is where I am in my career. And the thing is that I got asked last week to do 2 or 3 cons, but again, I'm at the point where I have to sort of like, well, do I really want to travel? I found, frankly, that the small cons are not worth my time, just economically, right? Like I could sit here today and I could do this nice sketch, maybe a couple of them, maybe 3. I can sell them on the internet, pure profit, no gas money, no traveling, nothing like that, right? And so I find often when I go to a small show, and I've been doing cons for like 50 years, right? So when I go to a small show, the people don't really have a lot of money, right? Because it's a small show. So
right.
People are going to come in and buy like a $1,500 piece, right? So now they're starting to do more they're starting to do more art-based shows, but still, I'm not sure. I used to like going to the Baltimore show because it was close. I'd hop in my car, and in an hour I'm in Baltimore. You set up, I hang out with my friends, but it's not quite the same now. So a lot of the people I know don't do those shows anymore. So,
but it's important that you're focused on the on local conventions. Like if there's a show within driving distance, you're better off. You can bring more stuff. You can you're not trying to fly with books or trying to squeeze all your merch into a carry-on.
Right. But then again, it depends upon whether that show is going to have enough guests to make it enough people, enough traffic to make it worth your time.
Right.
My friend Liang was just at the Galaxy Con down in Richmond, and it didn't sound like it was too hot.
Really?
Yeah, it sounds like the traffic was so-so.
Huh. They had a stellar guest list. I think they had like Shatner and...
Right, yeah. Well, I'm sure a lot of people will come to see William Shatner, but that doesn't mean that they're going to go down Artist Alley and buy your book. Right? I mean, that's the thing about this stuff. Then they don't even advertise you as an artist now, in a way. The guests are sort of general, right? You have your celebrities, and we're like right next to the tattoo people, right? We're right next to the cosplay people, right? So the celebrities or the voice actors get billed first, because most of the people that are coming to those shows are going to see the celebrities, right?
Right.
So, of course, everybody has, one person's worst con is somebody else's best con, but just looking at the metrics of the amount of cons that will be happening between now in October on the East Coast, sometimes there's like 2 in a weekend, right? Or within a month you're doing, there was just the Awesome Con, right? And then I know there was another Galaxy Con down, I think, in Norfolk. There was the one in Richmond. There was another little one somewhere else near Stanton or something. And then, there might be one in Jersey, so you sort of, they're not special anymore, right? So you kind of exhaust people, I think, because there's so many conventions. You're not going to go to a convention every month. Most people are not.
Right.
And I still feel like that's sobering, but it's still navigatable. Is that the word?
Navigable.
Yeah, it's still navigable. And it also, I think it's kind of like a good thing, right? If it's almost like doing market research. This is something that you want to do, but you have a lot of things in front of you that are making that not easy. How do you figure it out? How do you stand out? How do you move to the left when everybody's going the other direction? All those things are super important to you as a creative, rather than being mad that, oh, they're charging too much for a table. Then maybe do something else. You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that I always try to tell young creators, because, one of my favorite things to sit back and lurk, because I don't get enough internet beefs, Steve Conley. I'm never in somebody's Facebook thing like griping. I just sit back with my popcorn and watch people get all red in the face. I think it's ridiculous. But like, one of my biggest things is, it's like, one, somebody's always watching. That's my big tip for the night. Pause. Somebody's always watching what you're doing. Right? So if you're like in some like Facebook thing complaining that so-and-so gouged you on a table that was like, yo, last year it was $50, now it's $100. Yo, man, this is crazy. Yo, I got bills. Like, bro, what? And then you get upset when you don't get asked back the next year. You know what I mean? Like, those kind of things drive me crazy. And it's just, as we always say on the show, there's a cost of business. And that cost of business may be loud, but you need to be quiet about it and just kind of move accordingly. So I kind of got in my bag there. That kind of always bothers me when you just see young creators like getting real vocal about stuff.
Well,
But
I
they can
can,
just
you know,
move
I
around.
understand because people sort of feel like I'm spending this money and I'm not getting any return for what I'm spending my money on. And I get that, you know, but we're
Right.
sort of beyond that now in a way. We're beyond the people sort of being guaranteed a return. Anyone being guaranteed a return now. You know, I don't expect that even when I go to a show that I'm gonna get a return. I hope, but you know, that's one of the reasons why I stopped doing the local shows, because for my time, it wasn't worth it. You know, those wizard shows, I could get a free table. I could drive downtown. And then I sat there on my ass because the people coming in, they're not looking to buy anything. They're looking to get an autograph, right? They're not readers. They're not the group of fans that I used to have up until early mid 2000s, the people who would go around with their long boxes and backpacks full of books and stuff, you know, to get signatures or to, you know, fill in their collections. Those people are pretty much, I think, long gone now.
Mm-hmm. You know, I always just think about, you know, as long as we've been around and doing things and giving people advice. I think the thing, you know, some things change, or like maybe the vessel changes, but the information doesn't really change. You know, it's still kind of like persevere, you know. And I don't know, I just feel like griping on the internet to an echo chamber is never really wise as a young creator who's trying to get his feet planted.
Well, I think you also have to be, I mean, it's fine to make a criticism. What you don't want to do is you don't want to make it personal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then you have to do the work yourself on, well, who is your fan base? Who are buying your who's buying your stuff? Are you actually advertising to those people? Do they know that you're doing a convention? You know, a lot of people are not really good at that kind of stuff. Maybe it's not worth it. Do you have new material, or are you going to the convention trying to sell the same old shit that you had last year? Right?
Hey, hey, what are you trying to say?
You know,
well, it's such a good point. I mean, the idea that people bring if someone came to the worst thing is when you come back to a convention a year later and someone comes up to your table, they got money in their hands and they say, "What's new?" If you don't have anything, that's kind of. And someone asks you, did you have a good show? And it's like, well, it's not really the show's fault. I used to be involved in helping run SPX, the Small Press Expo, which is indie arts festival in suburban Washington, D.C. And every year the publishers would, you know, make sure that they had a debut at the show to have a good show. It's a fantastic show, and it's kind of like, but it's also what you make of it. And that's such a big deal. So finding the show that fits you, and then making sure that every time you go back there, as you start growing roots in that show and come back every year and keep nurturing that community that you develop, that you have new things to sell them and new things to show them at the very least.
I mean, I know that from myself, because I used to always take like back issues and draw and things like that. And then eventually I kept paring it down because I'm like lugging all the shit that nobody's going to buy, because you think, okay, I'm going to the store and I'm going to set up and I'm going to get a bunch of new people. But the fact is that most of the people are going to come and buy stuff from me are either going to buy art or a sketch. They're not really going to buy that many back issues of Draw, because if they were interested in it, they probably would have already bought it. Right? So now if I'm putting out the newest issue, okay, maybe they hadn't seen that one yet. But I found that that's why I stopped taking so many back issues of the magazine. And I wouldn't take any of my old Action Planet comics or anything because that stuff is, 20 years old. Anybody who wants it would have bought it by then, right?
Sure.
And so, but that's me, right? Now somebody else may go, "Oh, I take all my old shit and I'm constantly selling new stuff." For me, it's like I know the thing I'm going to do the most when I'm at a convention is I'm going to draw sketches for people, sign books, right? I'm not going to make my money selling comics. It's either going to be selling art or signing sketches. That's what 95 or better % of people want from me at a show. Now, if you're a young artist and you're putting out your books and you're taking them along, well, that's still your struggle years. You got to try to build your audience, right? So
right.
I think in that case, sure.
Yeah, it's that ShadowCon, John Beatty, I was set up next to him, and he had a price, a signature price list on the table, and with like specifically mentioning Secret Wars #7. Like, if you want me to sign this is the price for that, because that's what people mostly bring up for him to sign. I think he had a great show, just signing a lot of Secret Wars. We have a question.
That's the main thing. That's what he's like. That's it's like if Frank Miller shows up, what are they going to want him to sell? Like Dark Knight and
We've got a question here from Bradley Bemis on the YouTubes. Can I ask you guys what your preferred mediums are for coloring? Jamar, want to take that one?
Like for finishing professional work,
didn't specify, but how about for your graphic novels?
Well, it's I don't color my work, but everything's just like Photoshop. Like, it's all Photoshop. I've dabbled in coloring and clip. It's not very native for me. I kind of can't stand the way you color in Clip Studio. Some people make that stuff sing. They're fantastic at it. I am not one of them.
Do you color your covers?
No, it's all colored by other people. Yeah, that's pretty neat. But it's not like I haven't ever colored my own work just for this project. And probably for a couple of other freelancing things I've done in the past 5-6 years, I'll hire a colorist, just because. And this isn't the question, but I've always been kind of like a sloppy colorist. And at one point, some people may be surprised to know this, I was kind of known for my coloring. I didn't color other people's projects. When I was doing my stuff, they're like, "Oh, Jamar, I love the way you color stuff." Like when I was doing Boogaloo, like it had a very kind of severe, like extreme color palette to it. But it still Photoshop's like the formatted choice. I don't know if people color in Procreate. Do you do that, Steve?
Yeah, I color in Procreate.
How different is it from Photoshop?
I don't know. I've never installed any of Adobe's apps on my iPad, so I wouldn't know what the difference is. I've done all my coloring on the iPad, so it's kind of iPad native apps are kind of where I'm at. So that brings me to that basically keeps me in Procreate. At conventions, I've dabbled with some simple color. I don't do a lot of color commissions at conventions, but when I do, it's like a Copic marker.
Oh, I love markers. Yeah.
Bradley Bemis added some multiple choice for us. He threw out a color pencil, alcohol markers, gouache, watercolors, digital, etc. So I would lean heavily digital, and then alcohol markers.
I love markers. I'm a big marker guy. And we've been doing this for a minute, so I go back to design markers, going back, or chart packs.
Nice.
You could stink up a hallway with chart packs.
Do you remember the design markers had an airbrush?
Mm-hmm.
That can of you attach a can of propellant and a little nozzle to the tip of the marker, and it would spray of like this loose interpretation of airbrushing onto your work.
Yeah, I totally remember that. It was super expensive too. Like, you had to go downtown to Taw's to get that.
Yeah, and it would kill your marker.
Yeah.
Mike, what about your color work?
Well, it just depends upon the job, right? I mean, comics, it's all digital, right? Commissions, I've done stuff using markers or whatever. I mean, I use all the mediums from oil paint, gouache, watercolor, markers. You know, everything is really based upon the job. If somebody wanted me to do a color piece, I have done color piece with the markers. I've used the when I started back when they were using the design markers, which were great. They'd kill you,
yeah,
but they were great. Now, there's a lot of guys that ended up, a lot of old advertising guys that use those the actual real magic marker.
The magic marker, right? Yeah,
right. And they were filled with bestine, which is one of the most cancer-causing, poisonous substances out there. And I remember the magic marker. They were short, and they had felt tip was long that you could pull and you could cut it. So a lot of guys used to use comps and stuff in the old days would give it sort of a wedge tip, right? And the bottle was full of the stuff, right? Well, and you would get high smelling that stuff. And funny, because I was talking to Jerry Ordway about this a couple weeks ago on Blue Sky. And we were reminiscing about the fact that, those design markers did not fade. I have stuff I did in high school that's 50 years ago.
Wow.
It still looks good, right? But that stuff would kill you. It was, you're drawing and you're smelling that stuff, which is bad, but also your hand is going over the paper when you're doing it and you're absorbing that chemical into your hand. So they banned those. They had to change. So like if you smell the Copics, they're alcohol based. So they're not bestine based.
But it made it so easy to say, where do you get your ideas from? You just smell the markers and they come to you.
like a what do you call it? What's it? The Australian thing, the sleepwalk or whatever they call it.
The blood-red and the desert oak.
Dreamwalk, that's what it's called. You knew what I was talking about. Where you sniff design markers and walk into the desert.
I like that. I also loved Men at Work. That was great pop music.
Pop music.
Asa Taylor asks, I'm not familiar with Clip Studio. Are you working low res and will up res the inks later? Or will you up res before the final line work, keeping it low for performance?
You ask me questions I'm supposed to have the answers to.
Spill the secrets.
Bro, I don't know. I just opened this thing and started drawing. So if it looks like hot garbage, that's on me. I have this. This is like blown up to 800%, so that's why it looks so crazy. And that's another thing with me. Like if I'm just I have templates for all the stuff I do professionally, but when I'm just kind of dicking around, I just open the thing and I don't look at the numbers. That's like those old like TV cops, like you want McGillicuddy to get perps, he's not doing paperwork.
Don't tell me the odds.
That's right. Don't tell me the odds. McGillicuddy, you can't do that. Tell it to the dead girl. I just do the thing. Thanks, Ace. I wish I had a better answer for you. You're looking at me?
Oh yeah.
So D Fish said earlier in the program, Jamar, you should draw Leon fighting as Leon. or something like some sort of like Asbats version of Leon. The only thing I'm enjoying in this is this Astro Boy boot over here. I'm enjoying that boot. That's about it. Is this? I mean, can you kind of see what I'm doing? It looks.
Oh yeah.
It's like hot. Okay, that's good.
Oh no, it's great.
You're too kind to me, Steve. Instead of Stone Cold, I should have called you Too Kind, Steve.
But we're gonna have we're gonna wrap at 9:30 East Coast time this evening. So if folks have questions or anything they want to just dump lots of praise onto Jamar and Mike, now's the time.
And Steve.
I've actually been doodling, but I haven't put mine on the screen. I think it might have showed up once. I'm like, shh, just lay low, Conley.
I saw it. I saw it. But no, that's probably something that I should think about more often, is like saving stuff. Like a lot of times, like my warm-ups, and I don't really share a lot of things like that, is I may just kind of like, I almost kind of have like a scrap piece of paper, which is like a Clip Studio file that I just like on it, and then I delete it and get to work. So maybe I should start saving those. But I'm not thinking about resolution or any of that other stuff. I'm just kind of like trying to get the engine started.
Bradley Bemis says that right now working on on combining alcohol markers with colored pencils, and learning the difference between oil and wax pencils right now. Do you guys have any experience with that?
I don't like the waxy pencils. I mean, I would think that those would be okay for a final step, but if you're working like Amzel and Drew Struzan used colored pencil. So they would use colored pencil and gouache, watercolor. Like you can lay down a tone, watercolor, and then go on top with colored pencil, right? Even a little pastel, depending upon, like, you're trying to put a real highlight on something, you want something very opaque. Maybe the waxy stuff. It depends upon the kind of coverage that you want. Again, a lot of people, I think Thomas Blackshear, Amzel, Drew Struzan. There's a lot of people that use that combination of doing watercolor and colored pencil and gouache. Really multimedia. And again, the only way you can really learn any of this stuff and really actually have any of these answers is to actually do some pieces, because there's no way to know. That's the thing about drawing, really. Besides something very simple, like basically like pen and ink, the only way you really know anything about multimedia is to actually do it,
Right.
That's why doing it with things like a still life, like if you did a still life that had things that were opaque or things that are translucent, like glass, which had reflections, and various opacities. Those are good things to do as a practice, right?
Sure.
They're good just for practicing technique. You can do art. There's art that you do as a performance. Like this is a performance. What I'm doing here is a performance. But there's also things that I do in my sketchbook that's just practice. It's learning, right? So you could say, I want to do a guy's head all in watercolor. All right, now I want to do the same head, but I want to use watercolor as a base, but I want to do all the rendering with a colored pencil. You do the same thing, doing different. Well, this one I'm going to use watercolor, colored pencil. Then I'm going to use gouache. Right. That's
Right.
how you learn. That's how you learn. The only way as artists that we learn anything is through the actual doing of it. You can't do it any other way, right? Like even if you watch a video of somebody doing something, which can be informative, the only way you really know it is if you actually do it yourself. You know, you have to make a wash, right? If you watch somebody who's an expert make a wash, it's like, oh shit, that looks easy, because that person's got hundreds of hours behind their technique. You do the same thing. You're like, oh shit, this is what am I doing wrong? Oh, my brush is too wet, or my brush is shitty, or the paper's crappy, or I didn't make up enough of my color to do the wash that I want. Any question you have is answered by you doing it as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's also the fallacy of watching, of even you guys watching me, because I got 40 years plus drawing, right? So it looks like a magic trick because it's me doing it, right? I've been doing it since I was a teenager, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it looks easy when you watch somebody who has experience doing it, right? And then you sit down and try to, I saw him do the thing with the side of the pencil. I saw him. And then you do it, and it's like, oh, shit.
That's happy. Happy little trees don't look happy when I do.
Yeah, those little trees look like this. A suicide tree.
Oh, no.
That's a suicide tree. He's throwing himself in the fire. I mean, to me, there's something sort of, I guess it's kind of Zen about it, like giving yourself over to the process of drawing, enjoying the process of drawing, and being habitual about the process of drawing or the process of painting. That adds up, right? Like I would say, if you had a sketchbook, you went, to Michael's or wherever, and you bought a sketchbook, and you just said you took one thing, like hands or the skull, and you filled a couple pages every day. You could do a page copying from Loomis or Bridgman or a photograph.
JAMAR Nicholas.
You could copy JAMAR Nicholas's misshapen skull. You could capture JAMAR like the Predator, and then use his skull for practice.
What are you?
And if you did that, I mean, I've told this story before. This was a story told to me by Al Williamson in regards to Frazetta, when he started drawing those romance comics. He got some pushback from one of the editors about his quality of drawing. I think it was shoes. Mm-hmm. And so he took his shoes, he took a sketchbook, and in one weekend he filled that sketchbook with a bunch of drawings of shoes. So he knew how to draw. He knew how to draw shoes, right? He really practiced drawing shoes. Well, I always took that as like that's the way to do it. Like if you're really bad at feet, or you're really bad at eyeballs, or you're really bad at any particular thing, that's what you do. You just sit there, you get a sketchbook, and you go, this weekend, I'm going to do drawing of the bones of the hand, and then I'm going to do some drawings of how to simplify the hand shape, and I'm going to, look at some photographs of some hands and try to do some drawings based upon the studies that I just did. If you did that in a month, you were serious about it, your growth would be noticeable. Would really be noticeable, because there's drawing for performance and there's drawing for information, you know. And if you're organized about your approach to study, you will make much better you will move further better. Your progress will be better because it will be organized. The problem with a lot of young artists is they're obsessed with style, and they may do a fair amount of work, but it's not organized in a way that leads to a consistent result because you're kind of all over the place. So I think the way to do it is to do it in an effective way. So you pick a subject, like I said, like hands or the anatomy of the torso and the back, or drapery, or pick whatever it is you want, and you study not only from people like Loomis and the famous artist books and people like that, and then you apply that to, say, photographs or life drawing, so you understand what it is that you're doing. If you work in that way, then your effort is leading in a concentrated, organized fashion, because a lot of times we just sort of draw from the momentary inspiration to sit down and do a piece. And sometimes it really turns out, and then a lot of times it doesn't turn out, and you get to a point where you get stuck, and then you get discouraged, and then usually that a piece is abandoned. And then when the itch hits you the next time, you start over doing the same thing, right? And so I think if you're much more organized and deliberate about things, that was the benefit of the old apprentice system and the old system of you being an assistant, because they made you do very specific tasks like ruling lines and drawing backgrounds, very specific tasks which you learned, and then that gave you a base. And as your base grows, your technique, your ability, and your confidence grows, because it's very hard to do a good piece of work if you're not confident, right? And
Sure.
There's a difference there's a trade-off, especially when you're young, between enthusiasm and confidence. You have the enthusiasm, I'm going to do this piece, and then somewhere in the process, either you go all the way through, or like a fair amount of people, you get discouraged. Your enthusiasm wanes, and then your lack of knowledge, maybe drawing information, affects your confidence. So then the project is abandoned, and usually the piece is not finished.
Love that. We have a question here from RGB over on the YouTubes. Would you advise up-and-coming artists to develop their writing abilities? It seems that people like Daniel Warren Johnson are able to choose projects rather than just work on whatever comes up next. That was a very quick answer, Jamar.
Well, I mean, Mike's about to say something, but I think if you're thinking about your career in comics as a storyteller, like you want to do comics, is that like whole hog? Not, I want to draw Moon Knight for Marvel. Like, I want to tell stories. And I think that kind of changes your algorithm a little bit, right? I don't know Dane Warren Johnson's whole lore. I don't have the lore dump on him, but I know, like, didn't he do a power bomb? Like these kind of like really kind of like funky kinetic books. and kind of like, got an audience from that kind of stuff. And I don't know, then I think once you kind of establish yourself, then you can kind of pick and choose if you get to that point.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So, but all that to be said, it's like, can you write and draw a comic book? Like can you draw a comic book? Can you write and draw a comic book? Like I can only speak for myself. I came up self-publishing and I did all of it. It may not be the best all of it, but I did all of it. I learned how to do all of it. I didn't send samples of my artwork to DC Comics hoping I got a gig. I made comics. You know what I'm saying? So I guess if you start off in the gate thinking about like, how am I going to just make books? And you just make books. And then I think you can start to write your own checks later if you get known for making good work.
I guess I would add to that it really depends upon what your goal is. I think a lot of people who want to work for Marvel don't really think about writing. Like I didn't think about writing. I mean, I did write and create stuff myself, but I wanted to work, drawing, Batman and Spider-Man and stuff like that. And, not everyone is going to be good at stories. I would say that actually most people are not good at stories, right? It's like animators, right? Most animators are really good artists and performers, but they're not really good at story. And I learned that as a teacher, right? There were students who were really good at stories who weren't very good at drawing, but they really had a great storytelling sense. And then I had other students who were really good at drawing, much better than the person telling the story, but they were not good at coming up with a story. Mm-hmm. So, I think the main thing is to tie into what Jamar's saying is to create your own stuff. Whether you can write it or you find somebody else who's good at writing and you're good at drawing, it's much better in today's world for you to own your own material, right? It's much better for you to do that than to just work as even top person in Marvel and DC is expendable. Because the companies own Batman and you don't. And so you could do the most fantastic work ever done with a character. And in the end, they still own it all.
And there's something about creating it yourself. Mike Mignola, a great example. He did it. He wanted to draw monsters, but everybody wanted to make a superhero book. So he's okay, I'll make my hero a monster. And that's amazing. And I've gotten some work from some of the publishers. I've done work for Dark Horse and for IDW and for DC Comics. And it all came from my portfolio was my independently written and illustrated stuff. RGB follows up with, I like the idea of comic book auteurs. People who have a consistent voice, themes, visual style that spans their entire body of work. Yeah.
That's cool.
All right, we're coming up on the witching hour. 9:30 is about 4 minutes away.
Yeah, it's almost pencils down time, Steve.
How do I? Boom, full screen for that. That's great.
little lunch attack.
Yeah, RGB, I really like the idea of a cartoonist. I've always said that about Jamar's work, how there is a consistency to it, a integration that the work has. The line work, the lettering, the storytelling. It feels complete and of its own voice, which is really good. But as artists like Jeff Smith and Will Eisner, ton of creators who are writers and artists who have their own thing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were not interested in working for Disney or Marvel. They would just wanted to do their own thing, you know. And again, and that if that's your thing, then the main thing is doing it and doing a lot of it. Really producing a volume of work, because you actually have a harder road from the standpoint that, you know, Batman kind of sells himself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if you're a small guy, small publisher, and you could have something like One Piece or something. You could have some fantastic idea, but it's going to be much harder for you. It's going to take a lot more effort because you got to do everything, right? And you have to, like I was talking about with the conventions, you've got to take all that information in, process it, figure out what you're doing that's working, what you're doing that's not working. And of course, the environment you're working in is always changing. Like Steve was saying, with all these younger publishers now scrambling because the whole distribution system has changed.
Right.
And that's nothing you have any control over. You have no control over whether Lunar or anybody else is going to set a minimum. Like Diamond used to actually have a minimum where I think at one point, if you didn't sell at least 2,000 copies of your book, they wouldn't even take it. And minimum, I think that minimum kept dropping, but I know for a while, back when I was first self-publishing, if you did not sell at least 2,000 copies, they would not take your book.
Right.
All right, guys, I think that's it. I'm going for the pencils down. Guys, thank you so much. Let's see what Mike Dunn did over there. Oops, shit. Let me bring it back. Let me take me off the screen. And thanks for highlighting me, Steve. And then how do you get them over there, Steve? There you go.
So it's kind of roughed in. It's kind of got it roughed in. So I'll have to work on finishing this later.
And guess what, Mike? He's not wearing any hockey pads.
So,
good job. Steve, what were you working on? Can we put that on the stage?
Yeah, it's some sketching, maybe some ideas for a cover of an upcoming project.
All right, very cool. Say no more. And then that's what I did. Cool. Well, thanks, guys. I hope everybody enjoyed hanging out with us again. I know Mike is always good for finishing up his work and then posting it later. So I look forward.
Yeah, I'll probably try to put. Well, I won't be able to do it until I finish this week's Judge. So I'll have to wait probably till the weekend.
Well, I would like to officially call March a wrap. I really enjoyed, and I didn't know this was going to turn into a long month thing, but I like this. I like kind of these long form things that we're doing, and also gave the pencil pushers something to look forward to. So next month, I can't guarantee it, but we're looking at filling the month with guests. So don't hold us to that if we show up next week with Jaw 5. But we're trying to line up some guests. We have a lot of airplanes that haven't landed yet. We kind of all know how that's working these days. But you'll be the first to know. I would like to say before we get out of there, please hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. I hope that you have subscribed at this point.
Make your mom subscribe. Get your mom to subscribe.
Mom,
do me a favor, Grandma. Will you subscribe?
Sure, baby. I'll subscribe for you, baby. Sure. Anything for my baby. And we can't do this without you. So thank you so much. Please make sure that you are following your expert cartoonist on the socials. You can find Steve on Insta. You can find Mike on Insta. You can find me on Insta. I put those in the show notes at the very bottom of the screen. So you have no excuse to not know what we're up to. You have all the resources in front of you. So at that note, we got to get back to it. So thank you guys so much. I got to go with the standing thing. I heard that Dr. Walnuts, you know him with the winged hair, in a velour tracksuit.
Sure.
I'm sorry, crushed velvet. What am I thinking? And he said, "Hey, you know, Mike, I heard Quasimodo predicted all of this."
He was over there in the grassy knoll.
What are you going to do? He said that we're in the end game. So it would behoove us all before we go into that cold, dark night to make sure you wash those Kirby hands. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Get back to work. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, get back to work. You're all cartoonists.
That's
you
right.
need to be up late.
That's right.